Let me state the obvious. All right, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
It's a wonderful day to be alive. The show is packed full, as usual, so many topical issues in Nigeria at the moment. And, of course, security is paramount on the minds of many Nigerians and other observers as we speak, following developments closely in the country, and that will also form a crucial chunk of our show this morning. Of course, there will be other, segments, but once again, we are ready to go, and we are beginning with this latest from the Vatican City, and the LGBT movement has been gaining support in the Western world, but many countries within the African continent have consistently put up resistance to legalizing the practice and encouraging same-sex marriages. Well, recently, the leader of the Catholic Church, Pope Francis, allowed blessings for same-sex couples in the church, the Catholic Church, that is, sparking widespread debate on the matter, with particularly strong resistance coming from African bishops. And in an interview this week, specifically to an Italian newspaper, Pope Francis says Africans were a special case. Those were his words. And he was speaking in the light of the opposition of bishops and many other people within the African continent to the concept and practice of homosexuality. He says Africans were against the idea mostly because of their culture. But he believes that except for Africans, critics of his decision to allow blessings would eventually understand it. That's how we are taking off, because once again, this has also sparked fresh controversy in the African continent. Recall in December, the Pope had announced in a document called Fiducia Supplicans, which means supplicating trust, allowing for priests, Catholic priests, to approve same-sex blessings for lesbians, gay individuals, as well as bisexual, transgender, and queer couples. This document was released in December last year, only about a month ago, and African bishops had met. Many persons in the country had also, in the continent that is, had also, spoken about it. Of course, the stance for the African bishops, including the Nigerian bishops, had been that, bearing in mind that the practice of homosexuality in Nigeria remains an illegality since 2014. It's a minimum of 10 years for those who aid the practice of homosexuality, as well as witness or even conduct a union of homosexuals. Such persons will get 10 years in jail, while those who practice it or who marry, themselves, so to speak, who practice and go on to have a same-sex marriage or union will end 14 years in jail. It also goes on to say that 10 years in jail will be meted down on anyone who is found to conduct himself or herself improperly with his partner, improperly in public, or, has... It goes on and on, but the long and short of it is that it remains an illegality in Nigeria and many parts of Africa, and this was the standpoint for this African bishops, African Catholic bishops, who say that they will not follow the Pope's advice or directive, depending on how you want to call it. But Pope is saying now that they will eventually come around, that he understands where they're coming from, the cultural perspective that is, but that his idea is to unite the world, unite the church, and grant inclusion to these persons.
If his idea is to unite the world, unite the church, doesn't have to. There are other ways of doing that. I feel that from what he has said, like he said, the critics of his declaration belongs to a small ideological group, except Africans, whom he said were a separate case, because for them, homosexuality is something bad from a cultural point of view, and they don't tolerate it. I feel the West should try or stop trying to impose their views on Africans. We are Africans, right? We have our own views, we have our own worldviews, we have our own culture. And so they should shy from telling us our culture is bad or we do not understand what the world is talking about, and therefore we should jettison our culture because everybody accepts a particular culture from the West. We are our own people. And so I like the fact that African bishops have come together to go against this situation. It's quite a dicey situation because there are a lot of people my view might not be or will not be popular, or might be popular, because a lot of people are out there who do not even like the fact that the Pope made a declaration on this. But you see, I'll still stand on the fact that the Pope or the world, the West, should refrain from imposing their own views on Africans. We are our own people. We have our own culture, and we have our own, I'll use the word innuendos. Let's the West refrain from trying to impose some things onto us. It's our own culture. We do not like it. It's not part of our culture at all. It's not part of our heritage. And so they should not ensure or try to believe that we will overcome it or we will get over that. It's our culture. It's not what we want. And the African bishops have stated that clearly, that this is not what we want.
Absolutely. And, just recalling the letter issued by the African bishops, of course, they have a group. The Nigerian caucus was also, represented. And they issued a letter on January the 11th, signed by the president, Cardinal Fridolin Abongo. And, a critical portion of that letter reads, and I quote now, "We, the African bishops, do not consider it appropriate for Africa to bless homosexual unions or same-sex couples, because in our context, this would cause confusion and would be in direct contradiction to the cultural ethos of African communities." So, that's stating it clearly, just what the African Catholic Church, what they have agreed. And, only recently we also spoke with the first Hausa Catholic bishop in Nigeria, and, he was also asked the same question, what's the standpoint of the Nigerian bishops, and he didn't seem to deviate from what the African Bishops' Caucus had already, agreed on. So this is, a very interesting development. It remains a major controversy, and of course we've been seeing how African leaders themselves have even had to assert themselves on this, whenever it comes to diplomatic discussions now. Once in a while, the Western side will want to push this narrative into their discussion, talking about the stance, what they call the hard stance of African leaders to the issue of homosexuality. But these African leaders also answer to the people. They also answer to the cultures of, the people within their domain. And, this is something that remains an aberration in our own part of the world. And it stands. Well, questions were also asked to the Pope about whether this could also cause some form of division within the Catholic Church, the global Catholic Church, and whether he was worried. But he appeared to be optimistic, even though minding, knowing that, this is something that, as it is right now, he knows, he acknowledges that that's a positive. He acknowledges that his church or the priests under him are not entirely united on this issue. Hence his captioning African bishops, or, the African situation as a special breed.
Yes, well, we're actually a special breed. And so from what we have seen so far, the African bishops are actually holding, let me use the word, holding the world to ransom on this case, on this matter, because, like you said, it's quite controversial. And so everyone is trying to be careful. Like, for instance, now, the Vatican's guidelines have, however, received strong support from bishops across Europe, including Catholic clergies in France, Austria, and Germany. For now, those are the countries we know. It shows that others have not yet latched onto it. And so it's still my own thoughts and my own points that the Pope should not, or the West should refrain from imposing their own cultures on other people.
Right. Absolutely. Let's quickly bring up some more news